Collective Couch Conversations, a candid series about leadership and organizational development. I'm Rebecca Ume-Crook, and I'm here with my colleague Steve, and today we are toasting to failure.
So I'm really excited about this conversation. One, because I've struggled with failure in recent times, and I hate the feeling that I get in regards to failure. As much as I believe that failure more often than not is a prerequisite to success, I hate that feeling and the judgment that I get from people and how that impacts me as an individual and impacts my work. And I'm quite curious about how you, Rebecca, think about failure and how you tackle it.
Yeah, really good question. I think we're both in the same boat about not liking that feeling. I feel a tightness in my chest when I'm like, uh-oh, I think I made a mistake. So you're not alone there. I hope you don't feel judgment from the Metis team. I'm like...
No. If anything, they are more supportive of us here. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I think that's because I've been on a journey. I think we've been on a journey. When it comes to mistakes and failure, I would love to dismantle this binary of like success, failure. Yeah. You know, it's like black and white. Often it's presented to us as that way, and I actually don't think it's that. When I look at my own life, when I look at our fellows' lives and the journeys that they've taken to build their education organizations or their initiatives or even create national policy, there are always the roads like this. It's not like, you know, it's never quite straight, or it's never just, you know, it's on their pathway to success. So I think that we do ourselves a disservice actually to separate them. And then I would love for us to see that as that mistakes and failures and setbacks are actually part and parcel of what it means to achieve or succeed in any meaningful way. So that's how, I mean, I say that to you, Steve, and I'm also like, it still never feels good to go, oh, I made a mistake. But that's how I'm viewing it these days, to go, oh, like this is just part of it. And it's part of the Metis manifesto that was co-created in 2019, and I think that it's just an essential part of innovation and disruption. You have to, I think, be able to be willing to try new things and to be willing to flop. And you know, I've heard it said that anything worth doing well is also worth doing poorly, especially in the beginning. So that's how I'm viewing failure these days.
Yeah, that's really nice, because I remember I was reading our manifesto, and in our manifesto there's a line that says, "Be bold, fail more."
Yeah.
And I like that, because just looking at Metis and how you brought it up, I believe maybe there are instances or things that have come up for you which have maybe felt like you have failed.
Yeah.
And how did that make you feel? Maybe just highlight a few of those failures for us.
Sure. All right. One that immediately comes to mind, because it really did not, you asked me how I felt about it. I did not feel good. I thought Metis could be over. When I realized the mistake that I made, I stayed in bed sobbing for the weekend. I was so distressed. So this particular failure was, I think, in 2020, and we were working with now a trusted partner of Metis, who invests financial resources in us. And this particular donor had given us, at this point, our most significant grant. So it felt very important. It felt very high stakes to me. And we were at the end of a reporting cycle. So our team submitted a report about how we had used the funds and the impact that had come out of it, and pictures and stories, and then also a very transparent breakdown of how we had used the funds. At this point, we were using a fiscal sponsor And that's what many African-led organizations do. We use fiscal sponsors to be able to receive funds. And as a result, they take an administration fee off of this.
Yeah.
This particular one that we were using at the time was 10%. So pretty high.
Yeah.
You're looking at me as the finance guy going like, oh my God. Steve's eyes just got huge. Okay. Yes. We no longer use that fiscal sponsor. Okay. At that time though, I felt panicked. We were in the midst of a pandemic. I really was excited about receiving this biggest grant. We found a way to do it legally and safely. And we used the funds and then I was reporting on them, right?
Yeah.
I miscommunicated. So I was not clear in saying that 10% of their funding would go towards administration fees. And it wasn't, like I wasn't even trying to hide it because in the report, I clearly and transparently reported it. And I got this email. I remember it was a Friday night and I got this email from our funder in the United States and she was so upset with me. She was like, this was untrustworthy. I know that we offered you the opportunity to submit a future grant application. Maybe I extended that offer too soon. Like I was like, oh my gosh, did I lie by omission? Am I a terrible person? This is the day that Metis dies. It's all my fault. Like I can't even do my job right. I just went into this shame spiral.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it felt awful. And then I sat with that, honestly, that bad feeling for a while. I have a great community of friends who were able to go like, yeah, that was a mistake. Ooh, that doesn't feel good. But like, where do you go from here? And I think that it's another point for, I think, coping with our mistakes. I think community, where you feel a sense of unconditional love and belonging is super important. And I hope that Metis provides that sense of community for our fellows and for each other, really, because I think that's just essential to be able to pick yourself back up and take radical responsibility when you do make a mistake, as I had in this case. Yeah. So I sat with it. I felt bad. And then I responded to her. I asked for a call. And on that call, I apologized. I took responsibility. And then, I asked her consent to be able to explain, the situation and ask if, what she thought was the way forward to rebuild trust, because that's what we wanted to do. And so we explored a couple of different, we problem solved a bit, but ultimately we were able to pay back that money. I was able to earn back that trust, I think. Yeah, because I think apologies also go a long way. Like really owning your mistakes, I think, go a long way, at least in my experience. It did for me as a person to just be like, okay, yes, I did this. This is not ideal. I think we talk a lot about on our management team just separating like your inherent value and worth and then what you do, whether good or bad. Exactly, good or bad, like separating that completely. Like your worthiness as a human is never about the great things that you do for Metis or the mistakes that you make that affect us. So I think separating that is also really important, so that then you feel not shaken as a person and can really take responsibility. So did that. I'm very relieved to say that we rebuilt that relationship. They have been one of our trustiest and longest funders. They've come and visited us. So we were able to rebuild. And I think that was in part possible because we acknowledge the failure. I think you try to sweep it under the rug or explain it away or get defensive, it might not look that way. And of course, I'm not like perfect. I did feel bad. Of course, I also was defensive. There were points where I was like, don't you understand? Like, this is not, why are you getting so mad at me? Why are you, but I think it's important to it felt important to me to let myself feel those ways, but not respond from that place.
Yeah.
Like I can let myself feel that way. I can stew in my failure. I can feel defensive, all of that, and then recenter and move forward. So that's a big failure that comes to mind. I think there have been so many, in the, like small and big ones, in the building of Metis. I would say another one would be, I mean, man, just so many. I think in the early days of Metis, this is before your time, although maybe, yeah, I have this belief that the way that we build things is as important as what we build, and that process really matters. And yet, my actions are not always aligned to that belief and trust. And especially when I was maybe a younger, more insecure leader of Metis, in 2017 and 2018, I just think I really acquiesced to hustle culture. This sense of like harder, better, faster, stronger, more, and like go. And I think that impacted it impacted me, but it also impacted my teammates who were volunteering for Metis at the time. And I created more stress and anxiety than there needed to be. And I regret that. I wouldn't want that kind of sense of anxiety or stress for our kids or our fellows or our community. And I think that we each get to be a part of living into the vision that we have for the world, and I definitely did not do that. What else are there failures at Metis? I think I've really had to work on, this is still like a work in progress, of just being able to like delegate and trust others. I think I really burnt myself out being like very like overly and unnecessarily like nitpicky for things. I feel like as an executive director, you have to like hold a bar for excellence for everyone. And I think it's a balance between doing that and also just nurturing others and honestly letting other people make their own failures and mistakes and being able to grow from that. Yeah. So I think there's a way in which it's actually interesting, because as I speak it out loud, I'm like, oh yeah, I really kind of maybe tried to over control an environment where mistakes and failures at some points were not permitted, because I was just like over like micromanaging. Yeah. So I think that inadvertently could have stunted folks' growth, especially like in the early years. And that's still something I have to be really conscious of. So that's like a pitfall that I notice as a leader that I can fall into. Mm-hmm. So those are just a few.
Which are really interesting, because takes me back to when I was doing my CPAs. I had a challenge. It was a huge challenge to going through the coursework, and at some point I failed my exams twice. That put me in a place of self-doubt. I couldn't do anything right. I couldn't do anything. I was always second guessing. And the one thing that really helped me was when we came together as a group of me and my colleagues, we just sat down and said, each one of us has failed in this. How do we help each other? And that collaboration, and just knowing that you're not alone. There are people like you. You're not perfect. Yeah. You don't have to seek approval from anyone, and just reflect, introspect maybe. Mm-hmm. It helps a lot, because after that I successfully completed those CPAs, and I was so happy.
That's amazing. Yeah, that resonates with me a lot. I think like community and honesty can be the antidote to like these negative stories that we tell ourselves about our worth and potential when we make mistakes or when we act in a way that disappoints our own selves. Like that's inevitable. That's like living, that's being human. But I think it sounds like you had a whole story around what failing an exam meant about who you were
Right.
as a human.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a leader. And I certainly do that too. And I think that having people, whether it's friends or colleagues, and having the space to just say, here's where I'm at, that like feels so freeing. And to know that you're not alone in that can just be a real balm when things feel tough, or you feel like cracked open, or you feel tender. I really think that can be the saving grace.
Yeah, true. I agree as well. I agree to that. And just looking back, the biggest lesson I learned from my failure was that I don't need to be a perfectionist.
Yeah.
You don't have to put those high expectations on yourself, because more often than not, you won't meet them. And that you just need to do however much you can, and just seek like feedback from other people and ask for help.
Yeah.
That's my biggest lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's my other failure, I would say. You just said, and just ask for help. That's so beautiful and so important. And I think so important for all of us who are, within our Metis community. We're all about innovation and creating new things. And that's really tricky. And of course it's going to be hard. So I think one of my biggest mistakes was also in the early days, like not asking for help. And I think you were really vulnerable with your peers to say, I failed, not once, but twice. Like, how can we support each other? How can you help me? I need help. Yeah. So what you just said, actually, thank you so much for sharing that, because then that reminds me, I think one of my other biggest and earliest failures was not asking for help. And you just said that you were able to come together with your peer group and say, I need help. Like, I failed and I need help. And I didn't do that. My life would have been so much easier and more peaceful, and I don't think I would have had to struggle as much as I did. And maybe our work would even be stronger if earlier on I had just found my group of peers, of other founders, and said, I need help. If I was more transparent with the board. I was so concerned at the beginning, just like, oh my gosh, I have to have it all together or else no one will trust me. Like, I have to have everything prepared for the board. I can't seem weak. I can't seem vulnerable. I can't seem like, I just have to be infallible.
Yeah.
And that kills people. The loneliness and isolation that was self-imposed on my part, I think was a mistake. It caused suffering for me. And I noticed that our work at Metis has only gotten stronger when I've been able to say to others, hey, I need help with this HR question, or hey, do you have a template for this? Or just be willing to say, I don't know.
Yeah. Could
you help me figure that out? Or I don't know. Can you point me to some resources? Both with advisors and board members and even the team. So I think that's so beautiful that that's what you did. And that just sparked this memory in me that was like, oh, of course, that was definitely one of my biggest, something I would really do differently. And that I hope the team does differently going forward, just to feel like in your own spheres, who are the people that you can rely on to learn from, and who will help you just navigate the challenges that inevitably come with being at Metis.
That's nice, thank you. Lastly, I'd ask, what was your greatest takeaway from, or what has been your greatest takeaway from your failures?
My greatest takeaway from my failures is that it's like this weird thing. I feel like now we can do anything. Mm-hmm. Because, I've fallen flat on my face. I've been sobbing, been my little bed in my SQ thinking that everything was over. And you hit a place, you see yourself for who you are, not only all of your fabulousness, but also your fragilities. Mm-hmm. and then you see the people around you who help pick you back up. You see your own resilience, and you go, okay, I could do this. This wasn't that bad. So I think that is my biggest takeaway. It's actually acknowledging my failures transparently has given me a sense of self-assurance and self-confidence and a sense of self-peace. So that would be my hope, that everyone gets to feel that peace that comes with just embracing all of who we are as leaders, and that it's not this black and white thing of that when you do make mistakes, it doesn't mean that you are any less capable of achieving great things.
I like that. For me, my biggest takeaway has been not to be so hard on myself.
That's a beautiful thing. I hope you aren't.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm learning. I'm actually learning from you. I have been learning from you for the last 6 months, in just taking things slow, and going step by step, and just seeking help. Metis has actually helped me in that role a lot, especially with one-on-ones that we incorporate in our work. It helps a lot to seek advice, to seek help, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, from strength to strength, here we go.
Oh, yeah. Strengths Finder, that thing.
Yeah.
It also helps a lot. Also, the book about habits, atomic habits, the 1% rule, altering the smallest bits of how you approach things. It's also really helpful as well.
Oh, thank you for mentioning those resources. We'll link those here for folks to read in addition to watching this conversation. We really just hope that it helps you embrace all of who you are, and to be, I think, an authentic and vulnerable leader who holds yourself not only in high esteem because of all that you do, but also holds yourself with compassion for the mistakes or maybe even the failures that you encounter along the way.